Hey everyone, well now, a little bit of an odd topic for discussion for sure, but one that I feel is rather important to one's playing in the grand scheme of things. The ability to play and practice guitar with your eyes closed. Or maybe, to be a bit more precise, to stop staring at what your fingers are doing all the time. That said, literally playing guitar with your eyes closed definitely has its benefits. And those benefits will be the main focal point of this video, which we're going to get to a little later on. Now, we've all seen them, those great guitarists and soloists staring out at the audience or head back staring at the sky, playing the guitar behind their back or their neck or relative to the topic at hand, eyes firmly shut while they rip into a glorious guitar solo with very little visual regard to what they're doing on the fretboard. How do they do that? How do you get good enough that you always know where you are on the guitar fretboard without any visual cues? Well, let me explain. But first, like I said, I just want to say that this first topic isn't the main gist or main benefit of what I want to talk about with regards to playing with your eyes closed or without looking at what you're doing, but it will explain a few things. Much of it, of course, comes from years of experience on the guitar and the sense of touch and feel that one eventually gets and acquires by having, a literal feel of how long the fretboard is and the distance between notes and or chords on that fretboard. In other words, building muscle memory in your hands and fingers and having a visual map of the guitar fretboard in your head. Playing rhythm guitar in this sense isn't really that tough. Just ask any singer who also plays guitar at the same time and rarely watches what they're doing down here. Now, don't get me wrong, singing and playing guitar certainly isn't easy and presents lots of its own challenges. But visually knowing what you're doing on the guitar and finding, whatever chord comes next generally isn't one of them. Singing and playing is more of a timing and vocal coordination and phrasing issue rather than an issue with watching the fretboard to see where you're at and what comes next and managing to sing at the same time. The cowboy chords are all down here. Very easy to find, each and every one, without a visual cue. Power chords and bar chords, likewise, a bit more difficult than the cowboy chords, but again, easier to find with time and experience without looking for them visually. Soloing, on the other hand, is a different ballgame altogether. Lots and lots more notes to find, obviously, and that leads me to my first point. Solos, as you should know, are built for the most part within scales or modes, and when one first learns these scales and modes, it's very often a fret number by fret number basis. For instance, let's have a look at the A natural minor scale in this regard. We often tend to learn a scale like this: 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 5, 6, 8, 5, 7, 8. A good and fine way to learn a scale, but a bad way to think of it once you know it and begin soloing within that scale. It's the pattern and intervals that you need to know and memorize, not the fret numbers. If you only know the scale by fret number, then of course you need to see where your fingers are by looking at them. What one really needs to know, memorize, and be comfortable with is the pattern of the A natural minor scale, or any chosen scale that you may be using. In this case, the pattern with the A natural minor scale. Full step, half step, full step, half step, full step, back it up, half step, full step, half step, full step, full step, half step. Now, once you know the pattern, you learn a few of the extensions of that pattern and that scale. In this case, with this scale, these are two of them. That's the up and down. And there's one of the extensions. And here's the other one. and that covers this position of that scale. You could solo all day long here, never looking at your fingers, once you have the patterns firmly entrenched in your brain and fingers. And with experience, you can move to another position of the scale, in this case, here at the 12th fret. You know, a little peak is all you need, you know, to get from here to here, and then off you go, and you don't need to be looking at your fingers anymore. And then you've got the end of scale notes on each string that will connect you to the next note in the next position of that scale, all important to getting you from one place on the fretboard to another without needing visual cues. You know, like here, you know, the extension of the A natural minor is here, and then we just move into the next position. And now we move into the next position, right? So you get a feel for where one position ends and then where the next one begins, and then you can just connect them, and you don't need to look at where you're going and what you're doing. So you may ask, what are the benefits of doing this? Well, truthfully, other than giving you the freedom to not watch what you're doing and maybe concentrate on your performance, should you be an on-stage performing guitarist, there really aren't any, other than being able to play with hair hanging down in your eyes, or maybe making a little eye contact with the pretty girl in the front row. Where the real benefits come from not watching what you're doing, and in this case we're talking about actually playing with your eyes closed, is that it shuts down one of your senses, namely sight, and gets your ears wide open. Now, I'm not stating that, you know, the moment you close your eyes, your hearing gets better or your ears get better, like someone who loses one of their senses and it causes all of their other senses to become sharper. That's a thing. That, of course, is something that develops over time with these people. But what I'm talking about is focus. With eyes on what you're doing, you're working with three senses: sight, touch, and hearing. And taste, I suppose, if, you know, you're one of those guitarist who likes to, you know, lick their guitar while they're playing. And my advice there is don't be a guitar licking weirdo. Now, by closing your eyes, it narrows that focus down to just touch and hearing. You're not hearing better, but you're listening better. For example, at one point last year, I learned the all three solos to The Thrill Is Gone by B.B. King. Not technically challenging solos per se, and I had every note memorized to all of the solos in the song and ready to record them for my cover. I'd play them, I'd record them, I'd listen back to my recording, and for some reason they all sounded wrong, or off at least. I mean, all the right notes were there, but it still didn't sound good. Why not? I asked myself. I was playing it right. Why didn't it sound right? You see, with a player such as B.B. King, who very much had a less is more approach to guitar playing and soloing, it all comes down to the little nuances in his playing. And it was the little things that made him such a great player. You know, a little bend here, a quick little pre-bend there, touch of vibrato, a little slide, a quick little hammer-on, or a quick little pull-off. This, coupled with his famous dynamics, was what made B.B. King so good. You know, a little quieter here, a little bit louder there, so on and so forth. Nuance and dynamics. And this is what I was having trouble with, the nuances and the dynamics. Playing the correct notes wasn't enough. It still didn't sound good or right. And then I thought, play it with your eyes closed. And then I closed my eyes and really listened to what I was doing. And then it started coming together. I could hear the little nuances way better when I shut off my eyes and concentrated hard only on the notes that I was hearing. B.B. King, like I said, was from the school of less is more. If he was only using a few notes, as he often did, he made damn sure every one of those notes counted and had something to say. I personally wasn't saying anything with my notes because I wasn't listening close enough. Sometimes you need to shut off your eyes in order to really hear what you're playing. You know, nowadays, I've gotten so used to not paying attention to what I'm doing visually when I'm practicing, except for a few peaks here and there if I'm shifting positions, that I have to force myself to look sometimes. You know, for instance, when one is playing difficult, complex technical passages, you really do need to keep your eyes on what you're doing. And I often find myself staring at the picture on the wall and just fumbling over something and messing up difficult licks and phrases that I'm trying to play because I'm literally not watching what I'm doing. And I have to stop myself sometimes and tell myself, watch your bloody fingers, for crying out loud. No wonder you can't play it. You know, I'm trying to play something really difficult and I'm like looking off in the distance. In this regard, you most definitely do need to visually pay attention to what you're doing, for the most part. But slower, feely, blues-driven type stuff like B.B. King and John Mayer and David Gilmour and the like, by closing one's eyes and opening one's ears, it really can make a huge difference in adding loads of feel and emotion and getting the nuances into one's playing. And should you be trying to emulate or copy these great guitar masters, it will go a long way towards nailing those little nuances and the dynamics that are so abundant in their playing. Well, that's all I've got to say about that. I hope that was helpful. Give it a shot, see if it may make a difference in your own playing. It certainly did and does in mine. Cheers, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time. Close your eyes.